Hi, everyone. Welcome to Heart Mind Conversations with Cheryl Piper. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Cheryl Piper. And today we are going to be talking about leveraging your pain by leveraging your value. And you're thinking, what does that mean? Well, we're going to get into that with our guest. I just wanted to really quickly do a little bit of housekeeping and just invite everyone who is watching the show and would like to make comments live to I want to invite you over to my business page, which is at Cheryl Piper Sends Love. I've just pushed this out to so many areas, and in the description there is a link that will bring you over here. So if you're watching it on one of the other hubs where I pushed it out, just click that link and it'll bring you over to us, and then we'll be able to see your live comments. So if you're watching us live, thank you so much. Welcome. If you're watching on the replay, welcome and thank you. We know that you can spend your time doing anything. So we're very appreciative of you taking the time to join us today or on the replay. Add your questions into the comment area, whether it's live or replay, because we're going to be monitoring this post and we will answer your questions. So I am going to go ahead and introduce our guest. Our guest today is Lisa Scott, and Lisa has a bachelor's in metaphysical science. She's a mother, a wife, a metaphysician, an author, a speaker. Wow, she just does so many things. And every time I talk to Lisa, we have the best conversations. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her up so you guys can say hi, and we will get started. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Cheryl. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing well, and welcome to the show. So glad that you're here.
Thank you
And
for
I'm
having
sure
me.
I'm sure that there are people in our audience thinking, okay, leveraging your pain by leveraging your value, you know, what's that all about? And I know we're going to get into that, but first I'd like to, just have you maybe introduce yourself a bit and talk about how you came to this space of doing what you're doing as a metaphysician.
Oh my goodness. I'm now I'll be doing a backstory to the backstory because as we've talked about, I there was just a space and time that felt like it was carved out for me to understand or pay attention and know that I had the power to change my own thoughts. And as a result of that space and time, one thing led to another. And I'll just go back a little bit in terms of that understanding of having the power to change my own thoughts, because prior to that, I would say that I was functioning on automated, as many people do. You get up every day, you function, you're doing what it is that you do from day to day, not realizing that you're basically on autopilot. You're functioning from experiences and familiar experiences that you've had all of your life. And, just repeating that information on a daily basis, not knowing that you have an ability to, change your thoughts, change your mind, change your life. And what caused me to, even stop and pay attention to that was I started experiencing some, physical symptoms in my body that I was experiencing migraine headaches, trouble with digestion, not trusting myself. All kind of stuff was going on at a certain point in my life that I frankly thought I was just going to be experiencing for the rest of my life. I thought, the feelings were familiar to me. So, they were familiar. I didn't have any understanding of how to do anything about them. So I just thought this was going to be my life. But then just one day I got sick and tired. I got sick and tired of these feelings that I was having. And, I wouldn't say that this is a formula for anyone, but this is my experience. is that I got sick and tired of these feelings. And just after that, it felt like a space and time where it was carved out for me, where I heard a voice. And that's the only way I can put it. I
Mm-hmm.
heard a voice that said to me, with the same thoughts that brought you to this space, I'm going to show you how to utilize those thoughts to bring yourself out. And I thought,
Beautiful.
number one, I thought, okay, you know, the fact that I could even hear this, was not something I was even aware. I was not consciously aware of my thoughts prior to this event. But when I heard that voice, that was the first thing that came to my awareness, was I was conscious of it. I knew that I heard something. And so when I stopped and I paid attention and I said, okay, I just heard that. I know I heard that. I began to pay attention to a chain of events that happened after that. And that chain of events was showing me, or having me to, I would say I became a scientist of myself right at that moment.
I
And
get that.
yeah, I became a scientist of myself because I said, okay, everything that I'm experiencing right now, I want to make sure it's the reality of the situation at this space and time. And as I, process my thoughts, I could feel a sensation go through my body, an emotion, a feeling go through my body based on the thought that I was having. And I said, okay, wait a minute. This is how this is happening. Like, I'm having a thought, and as a result of the thought, there's a correlating emotional response with that thought. And I went through the process of throwing out a couple of thoughts to make sure that what I was feeling was accurate. And every time my thought changed, the correlating emotional response changed as well. And I thought, oh my goodness. So if this is what I'm capable of doing, then let me introduce a thought and see how that goes. And then here came this correlating emotional response to that thought. So that's how my process started. That's how I started my business, because I said, if we have the power to do this, I don't know how many people are aware of it, but anyone who is willing to listen, I want to share this information with them. And that's how I started my original business. And I considered myself a coach, a spiritual coach. That was back in 2011. And just over time, I do have to say this. I have to say that along this journey, I have come to understand that you only know what you know until you know something else. So
Absolutely.
even when we experience a truth in a specific space and time, there's still so much more to
Mm-hmm.
even that understanding. So I also consider myself, and have become very comfortable with calling myself, a traveler, because that's how I feel. I
I
feel like,
understand.
yeah, I feel like no sooner than I understand an aspect of something, um, it opens the door to understanding an aspect of something else. And so I'm never in a space where I, get married to certain things, so to speak. I stay loose with it. I stay in a space of flow, and a space of, always accepting that there's still something else. It's just been my journey since 2011, so I can't deny that is the reality of my experience. Is you're going to learn, Lisa, you learn this, but you're going to learn something else. So
That's beautiful. I love that, Lisa. And just that whole thing that you're sharing, that you were living life on autopilot. And I am sure there are so many people out there watching, right now on the replay live, that are thinking, wow, I understand what she's saying. That makes sense to me. And it's having that shift, allowing that, I use that word a lot when we talk. It's allowing, and like you said, coming into those new thoughts, those new realities, it's because we're willing and we allow ourselves to be open to shifting into whatever is next for us to learn. I love that. That's
Exactly.
beautiful.
Yeah, there's I just understand that there's not one aspect of where I am now that, wasn't because of some, this that happened first, this that happened, this that, everything is so connected. And we hear these words, we hear these phrases, everything is connected. And they can become cliche to you because you're hearing them
Yeah.
over and over again, except if you're having an experience that is showing you that you are participating in, that is showing you that, wow, as a result of this, it opened the door to this. And as a result of this opened the door. So everything truly is connected. It's all communicating to us. It's just a matter of actually what our questions are at a space and time
Yes.
that opens the door, to receiving that answer.
That is so true. And it reminds me when you say, with everything being connected, and I live in that reality as well, and experiencing how connected things are and how they do open up to the next thing. And
Yeah.
I've had people throughout the years, ask a question that seems a bit cliche.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll ask a question of, well, if you could change one thing in your life, what would it be? Or if you could, what regret do you have that you wish would be different? And I always have the same answer. Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Everything that I've done has led me to this, and I wouldn't want to not have this. I wouldn't want to not know this. I wouldn't want to not have had these experiences that open me up to all of this wonderful knowledge, this wonderful understanding of who I am. And like you said earlier, understanding how powerful we really are.
Yes. Yes. And you're speaking to that aspect of what we're perceiving as pain, and we're heading right over there,
We're heading right there.
right there. What we're perceiving as pain at a specific space and time. Isn't it amazing how we can turn around and look at an experience and say, I wouldn't have it any other way? You
Absolutely.
know what I mean? If once you experience that and you have come to a place where you get what you get from it, that you understand what the wisdom and the knowledge was within that experience, I wouldn't change anything. I mean, and I've had some experiences that somebody might say, you wouldn't change that?
I get
And
it. Mm-hmm.
at this space in my life, no, I would not. No, because there was something about that experience that, just like you were just saying, it opened the door. It caused, yeah, at that moment in time, it might have felt like pain, but that's, we'll come to understand that's just a matter of perspective and perception. But when we get something out of it, oh my goodness, it's an amazing.
Absolutely. And it is seeing the treasure that's hidden behind what we think is pain. And so like we are leading right into, I'm going to go ahead and introduce this subject again, because we're right there on the edge of it. Leveraging your pain by leveraging your values. So go, Lisa, go.
So I shared the backstory, which led me into the creation of my business. And when I first started, it took off. It was doing wonderfully. I didn't have a lot of experience in the online space, but it didn't matter, because at that space and time, I had decided that people were going to gravitate toward me. This is how this was going to go. And that's exactly how it went for a space and time. But at another space, I started to notice a shift. And I think that I have no idea what was happening in the online space, but something was going on. And I hadn't caught up with that. I didn't have an understanding of whatever that was. All I understood was that what my business once looked like, it was starting to change, and I needed to understand what that shift and change was. Um, what I did know was that online women business owners naturally gravitated toward me with my message at that space and time. And through a lot of conversation with a lot of different business owners, what I started to understand was the business owners were looking for the technical, how do you get online? How do you present yourself online? They were gravitating toward me because of that. But I came to understand it was something else as well. And they were paying attention to the technical aspects of things and, how do I get more clients, that type of thing. But as I engaged in the conversations with them, I noticed that there were a lot of pain points that were not being addressed. And I thought, this is very interesting, because I knew, because of the work that I was doing with and on myself, that unless these areas are being addressed, and I understand this on an energetic level, because you are what you are creating, we can't ignore the pain points that you're going through in order here and just do the technical side and the advertising and marketing and getting more clients. That almost doesn't matter at all if you are not paying attention to what is going on within yourself that needs to be addressed. And so over time, as I'm paying attention to this and understanding that this was happening, I stopped and I asked myself, because what we identify in others, we also, it's a mirror reflection of a process that maybe we just came through, and perhaps, basically that's it, a process we have just gone through or are getting ready to go through. And so I asked myself, what was my problem? What was my issue with not wanting to pay attention to pain? And as I processed that information, I had a light bulb aha moment where I realized, it's because people are not understanding that pain is a form of communication. Mm-hmm. It's because they're coming from a space where pain was taught to them to be something, and it hurts, and it's all of these things, that you're taught that pain is. However, when you understand that it's a form of communication and you pay attention to what that form of communication is talking to you about, you, the individual, because everybody, I could use a certain word that is a term that is painful, like let's use a term like overwhelm, that can be painful to a woman business owner or anyone who's in business. But what overwhelm means to you, the individual, versus another individual at a specific space and time means something different to every individual. Mm-hmm. And when I tapped into this understanding about pain being a form of communication, then I was able to, extrapolate the various areas that women business owners were going through and say, okay, when we address this, when we face this head on, when we don't sprinkle fairy dust on it, when we stop trying to affirm it away, or stop trying to deny it, or stop trying to deny that aspect of ourselves, because really in all of this denial, you're denying an aspect of yourself. Mm-hmm. And how can we love ourselves 100% or love ourselves completely and fully as we're denying an aspect of what is going on with us? And so all of this, revelation was happening with me. And I said, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to learn how to leverage our pain. We're going to learn how to get the most out of it, because that's what leverage means. Mm-hmm. Leverage means to get the most out of something. So I wanted to be that voice in a sea of people that were saying something other than what, I was saying, to be the one that says, I accept you. Let's all accept ourselves. Let's turn around and face what we're going through, because it's as we're facing it and understanding our own selves, our own, what we're perceiving as pain is only a form of communication and a message that can assist you to what the next step is in your journey, not only in your business, but with yourself personally. So we're addressing all of that at the same time.
Oh, I love that, Lisa. I mean that, and the way that it all just laid itself out to you. You
Yes.
know, as people were being attracted to you, you found that business women were being attracted to you because of what you're doing online, and they want to know how to do that because they want to get more clients. But and then understanding and seeing all these pain points, because I say the same thing with working with people as being a relationship coach, whether that relationship is in business, personal, or with yourself. There's so many times that I start working with someone as a business coach, and quickly it shifts, just like you said, to that one-on-one working with your relationship with yourself, and having them understand exactly what you're saying, because until you can accept yourself 100%, just as you were saying,
Yes.
and love yourself 100%,
Yes.
then all of this other stuff is going to fall into place. Then you're ready for all of that, because
Exactly.
otherwise you're fighting. You're
Oh,
fighting, or you're running from something.
exactly. And I, something that stood out to me was that space and time, and we're still talking about it now, but everybody talking about authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And because every time I hear a word, I process that information. I take it in and I say, okay, wait a minute. What exactly does that mean to and for me? How am I processing that information? And I said, wow, how would one be able to show up authentically if they are not, if they are not accepting of who they are?
Yeah.
How can that happen? Um, so in looking at, thank goodness for the online space, I think, because there's so many phrases that come out. There's so many things that we're hearing that as a business owner, you have the opportunity to be the gatekeeper of your thoughts, and not just automatically jump out there and go with the flow of something because it sounds good, but you have the opportunity to process that information and say, what does this mean to and for me? And
Yes.
that in and of itself is authenticity, because, and I'll just share something real quick that, I, am I see myself as approaching things very differently, because there's a lot of people out there who are saying, you gotta hustle, you gotta work hard, and I'm like, okay, as I sit with myself, I'm like, no,
I hear you. I hear you.
I no, I don't, and come to find out, as I, went deeper and deeper into that understanding, I said, okay, we're within a system, we're functioning within a system, and within that system, there's certain processes that are put in place, and there's certain ideals and methodologies and philosophies that are put out into the ethers, that people pick up on, and over time, you're just taking that information in and you're regurgitating something that you heard someone say, but it doesn't mean it's the truth for you. And that has been the bulk of my journey since 2011, and assisting other women business owners, is to assist people to pay attention to what you are. It's like a hairline fracture. It's that precise in a person paying attention to what information you're taking in, and whether or not that is a truth for you. And when you
Mhm.
really stop and pay attention and you say, oh my goodness, it turns out it's not a truth. It's something I just kept hearing over and over and over again. And for me, what I came to understand is, okay, this work and hustle thing is relative. Um, my feeling like I don't work at all, or I feel like I'm always in a flow, and when I'm out of that flow, I can feel it. All of that is because for me, I feel like I'm in that flow. That is my agreement with myself. And I tell people to pay attention to the mental agreements and contracts you sign, because it is by virtue of what you sign within your own mind that you will have to live out that agreement.
Absolutely.
And because I made an agreement with myself and was very consciously aware that no, I'm not going to hustle. No, I'm not going to work hard. I'm going to flow. And I came to understand also that work, or that my flow, or my not feeling like I'm working, is relative to the fact that I absolutely love, enjoy, and it's a part of me what I do.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
am, there's a quote that I share now. If I could just tap into it, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Um, you can only do who you be. You can only do who you be. And this is going to lead into the leveraging your values part,
Mm-hmm.
because so many people are not able to be in a state of being to do what they're doing, because they're detached from what it is that they're doing to begin with. It has nothing to do with them. It has nothing to do with that individual. They heard somebody say, oh, this is a good way to do this, or this is a great product. Why don't you sell it? Or, there's all this stuff going on out there, that you see an individual who might be extremely successful at doing that thing, but that thing was for them to be successful at doing. So
Yeah.
if they were to provide you with the same exact formula, you're not going to get the same result, because that was for them. That was for them to do, because they're in a state of being in order to be able to do that. And so that brings me, if you're ready to go,
Sure.
to the leveraging your values part. Because over time, as I'm processing all of this information and seeing people doing things that are detached from who they are as a being, I had to stop and think about this whole process as well, which led me to an awesome mentor. That's another thing I would highly suggest, is that, allow your questions to, and your, not only your questions, but your responses to those questions, to allow allow yourself to be open to the mentors that are responding to the questions that you're asking.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have along this journey, like I said in the beginning, because of the fact that I understand that something is a truth, but it's always going to have another level to that truth. Um, this is how I arrived at the leveraging your values and paying attention to people's detachment, which, led me to another mentor that was like, oh my goodness, he's speaking my language. Um, we are all functioning, we are all living on a daily basis based on our own set of values and priorities. Values meaning those things that we find value in the most.
Yes.
These things that we find value in the most are things that, if you stop and take a look at your life, no one has to prompt you to do it. No one has to ask you to do it. No one has to remind you to do it. No one has to motivate you to do it. In fact, if you need to be motivated to do anything, you are not functioning within your values.
Good point.
If you need to be motivated, because those things that you value the most, you are automatically, intrinsically inspired to do those things
Yeah.
already.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening is that a lot of people are simply unaware. It's not that they're not doing these things that are of most value. They're simply unaware of what those things are. And they're also functioning in areas perceiving that they're detached from the things that they're functioning within. So even I'll share this as an example. Even if you're in a job that you're perceiving you don't like, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that we're always functioning within our greatest values and our priorities, if you stop and pay attention to every single job function you're performing at this place that you perceive that you don't like, you'll notice that those job functions are assisting you in the areas of the spaces that are your greatest value. But you're simply unaware of what your greatest value even is to begin with.
Mm.
And what I can help people with is determining what their greatest values are, or helping them to uncover, not determine, because determine, means we're trying to figure something out. I can help people to uncover in an objective way by answering a set of questions that I have. They will organically see their values jump out, and they'll shake their head. Yes, they just will not have known these are my top 3, top 4 greatest values, that I can take that information and now, design goals, and you can design goals and possibly a business from your greatest values, which I can assist you to uncover.
Absolutely. And yeah, once those are uncovered, I mean, the possibilities are limitless as to
Oh
what you
my
can
goodness.
do.
Oh
Absolutely.
my goodness.
Because then once again, you're stepping into your power.
Exactly. You're
Mm-hmm.
understanding now that where you were feeling powerless, I like how you said that, where you were feeling powerless, you'll understand that every day of your life, you were always functioning within your values. You were always functioning within your greatest values and priorities. It's the only thing we can do. It's because of our perception when we're functioning, doing whatever it is that we're doing. It's because of our perception, because of um, our detachment or our lack of understanding about values, that you're feeling like this feels bad, or this is not somewhere I'm supposed to be, or all of those pain points that come up.
Exactly.
They're simply as a result of your not being aware. You're not aware currently of what your values are, but you're doing them every single day. And I'll use an example just of that part where I said your greatest values, you're automatically intrinsically inspired to do this thing that you love, or those values that you hold dear to yourself. Let's just use a child who loves video games.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A child who loves video games, that plays video games every day, you don't have to remind them when they come running through the door from school. You don't have to remind them that there's a video game downstairs. In fact, I'll talk about this piece also. When you have uncovered your greatest values, you will also accept not only the quote unquote good parts of whatever it is that you're engaging in, you will also accept the challenge that comes with that. And I'll bring it back to a child with a video game. That child who doesn't need to be reminded about that video game, who is just intrinsically inspired, that child is also intrinsically inspired to go to the next level of challenge for that video game.
Yes.
They're not going to back away or say, oh, I'm not going to do that anymore. Or, you know what I mean? They're inspired intrinsically to also engage the next level of challenge that comes with that. So in uncovering your greatest values and paying attention to your priorities, what this does is it opens up what's called the executive center of the brain.
Yes.
And when it opens up the executive center of the brain, you have what's called foresight. So now you're not only reacting and responding to things, putting out fires and going through the pain points of that experience, because you have shifted your perspective, because you understand how to pay attention to your greatest values, and because you have opened up the executive center of your brain, now you have foresight about the challenges that perhaps will arise with whatever it is that you're doing within your greatest values. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you don't mind, I had a thought that just popped into my head. And that is because when we do open up that executive brain, that opens us up to a whole new level of thought. Oh. And so therefore, things that may have seemed, what I want to say is may have thrown us into kind of a pain point before, or created stress before, now all of a sudden look kind of fun, like a challenge. Like
exactly.
Yeah, because we've opened up an area of thought that allows us to see things differently, which is beautiful.
Exactly. And it's, what amazes me about all of this, and I can't wait to actually look at this video again, because because of the process, you know what I mean? The stages, or how we perceive, because everything's happening all the time, always, but our perception is a very linear one. But these steps, or this, this part of the process happened in order to open the door for this, in order to open the door for this, in order to open the door for this. As I sit back and I look and I say, wow, this is an amazing process. It's an amazing opportunity to open the door to I can't wait to whatever the next to understand what I'm going to understand next, because it's just been an amazing journey. And how I feel about my role in this journey is to simply assist people at whatever stage I'm even at, to share with people at that stage, hey, this is what I've experienced. This is what I've, come to understand about this space and time. And if you're ready and you're willing to learn that information, if you too are in this space, then allow me to help you with that, And that's just the flow, that I'm in with this,
I do understand. I understand exactly. Exactly. It's so beautiful.
It sure is. I marvel at it.
Well, and I have to say, just to share with our audience, this flow that Lisa and I have is the first time Lisa and I spoke with each other, we met, actually, we're on a Be Live platform right now doing this show, but we met on a, Stephen Healy actually put a post out on the Be Live group and said, hey, introduce yourself if you're new. And Lisa put a post up, and then I put a post up, and then I was like, well, I want to meet her. And so then her and I we got on a chat, and we just talked, and it was like we were just twins. I just can't even describe it any other way. So I love the flow, and I am so grateful that you and I have met and connected. So I just wanted to share that out to our viewers.
And you know what? I'm grateful that we met and connected too, Cheryl. And just, to share a little bit more about that story, is that I had only used be live. I think a couple of days, maybe a couple of days before we met, because I'd seen the platform before, but I had not used it myself. And I decided, oh, this looks good. Let me just try it out. I tried out the platform and I said, oh, this is fun, and, was getting a lot of engagement on that particular live that I was doing. And I said, okay, let me go over into the Be Live group and see what everybody's talking about. He happens to say, share your video in this thread. I share my video in the thread. And, so it's like this chain of events that you can't write in a book.
Exactly.
You just can't write it in a book. And it's like, I just sit back and I'm like, who knew?
Well, I so appreciate you, Lisa, and I so appreciate you sharing your story today about leveraging your pain by leveraging your values. I mean, for those of you, I'm going to actually put your website, I'm going to put it across the bottom now. For any of you that would like to get in contact with Lisa and talk with her more, her website is actually scrolling across the bottom of the screen now. It's leverageyourpain.com. And Lisa, before we close out the show, is there anything that you would like to share that I haven't asked you?
Probably not.
Okay, it's all good.
No, the only thing I'm thinking is just what I said, that this journey is incredible. Allow yourself to ask the questions, the intrinsic, inherent questions that arise within you. Accept that, allow that. If there's anything in this life that's making you feel, pay attention to your body, pay attention to your mind, pay attention to those signals that can be perceived as pain, that are just yelling or trying to get your attention to say, there's perhaps some questions that you might have that this pain point is trying to assist you to pay attention to. And I was just thinking this the other day, like, wow, again, with words or phrases that can be perceived as cliche-ish, when we talk about the mind-body connection, this is truly a connection, not only to the mind and to the body, but to our external environment as well. Yeah. All of this is a form of communication. And even if we're suffering or perceiving that we're suffering a physical symptom, it is there to speak to you. It is there for you to begin to go inside of yourself and ask some questions. And what's amazing to me, at least it's been my experience, is that when I get quiet, if something's going on in my body that doesn't feel comfortable, no matter what it is, if I get quiet and sit with myself and begin to ask what this is all about, and I generally just start with a question that general, what is going on? Mm-hmm. And I sit and I listen, I begin to hear a response. I begin to hear what this physical symptom, or even, if I'm uncomfortable or feeling an emotional pain point in my mind, and I begin to ask what that's all about, I always get an answer. So that's my biggest takeaway, is to understand that what our perceived pain points are nothing but a form of communication. And when we have that type of relationship with that word pain, it's not so painful. It becomes the word pain, and understanding it's a form of communication, becomes a teacher. It becomes an instructor for you to help you to understand what the next step is in your life and in your business.
Well, absolutely. I agree 100%. And thank you so much for joining the show today, Lisa. I really appreciate it. And I love seeing you. And hang out for a little bit. I'm going to close out the show, but hang out for a little bit, and you and I can chat afterward.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody.
So wow, that was great information. I'm going to put Lisa's website right across the bottom again, so you guys have that, leverageyourpain.com. in case you want to get in contact with Lisa personally. And wow, what a great show today. I enjoyed the way Lisa presented everything with pain in being a form of communication, in being a form of us looking at pain in a different way and understanding that it's shifting and moving us to a different perspective. So thank you so much for joining the show today. I also want to do a shout out really quickly to all the women in South Central Pennsylvania, Maryland, and the Eastern Panhandle of West Virginia. I want to do a shout out about Tri-State Woman Retreats. We meet the last Thursday of every month, and it's a great night for women to come together and connect, not compete. It's really designed to be a great space to just learn about self-love, learn about self-care. So the website is scrolling across the bottom of the screen now, tristatewomanretreats.com, and you can grab your tickets there. And I hope to see you at our June retreat. Take care, and I will see you on Sunday evening for Sunday evening meditation. Enjoy your week.